How did a show about kids on bikes traumatize my generation and make my dad feel nostalgic at the same time? Hi, everyone. Welcome to Raised Rightish. In this episode, we're going to be talking about Stranger Things.
Yeah, we're definitely talking about Stranger Things and how it somehow brought adult kids and everybody from the 80s to now to enjoy the show all together.
Stranger Things first came out July 15th of 2016, and in late 2016 is when I first watched the show. When I first watched it, I was in 7th grade. I had recently hurt my knee, so I could not participate in PE, so I sat in the bleachers and I watched the entirety of season 1 on my little iPhone that they had just made at the time. So that's when I first watched Stranger Things. When was the first time you watched Stranger Things, Dad?
Well, like I said before, watching that second season with you at the end when Dustin was singing Neverending Story, and as I said, that was one of my favorite movies as a kid growing up. And then we both sat down and watched it together. I liked it from the beginning. It had a lot of movie attributes in it. It felt like a show that I grew up watching, and that was so much fun to enjoy the show.
Absolutely, and I think that was the cool thing is that I had a lot of 80s inspiration while growing up, so seeing those little aspects in a different show I thought was really cool, and I guess it kind of reminded me of my dad a little bit, so I thought, I was like, maybe if I watch this, I'll learn something about when he was growing up that was completely different from me now when I was growing up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. It had a bunch of little cool, fun stuff in there from the days I grew up, being the kid in the 80s and the bicycles and seeing the lights on their little bicycles and all that good fun stuff. Yeah, we definitely didn't grow up with no cell phones. I'm glad they didn't bring any kind of technology into it. I've seen shows like one of my other favorite ones was Smallville growing up, and they kind of brought in some technology into it for being an old school Superman, and this show didn't bring none of that at all, and it still kept the crowd attached to it, really, which is really great.
Absolutely. I really liked that the show was magical and kind of mystical, and it made you really think in your head what's going to happen next, and it was very, very, very creative. I will be very honest. Being a kid and watching something like that, and honestly, the worst thing or the hardest thing to do is keep a kid entertained. Being able to sit that entire season and watch it and just be so intrigued and wonder what's going to happen next. Where's Will? Where's Barb? What's going to happen to Nancy and Mike and Dustin and Will and Lucas and everyone in between? It really just makes you want to worry about the characters. It makes you really feel attached to some of these characters, because I felt like growing up, I kind of felt like Nancy a little bit because I'm the oldest sibling. I understand what it means to protect your family and protect your friends and always want to be there and be better, even though that she did have her moments, don't we all? But I really see myself in some of these characters, and I really think that's why a lot of other people were able to watch the show and just fall in love deeply with each and every single one of these characters.
Yeah, definitely. The show brought a bunch of the aspects of the 80s from my point of view. The moms in there were very protective. In the beginning, you had Joyce Byers just going crazy looking for her son, and you definitely couldn't have gotten a much better 80s type of mom, or just a mom in general, that should be the overprotective, always making sure the children are taken care of. And if you, in the beginning of the show, when they're going home and Will goes missing, and that's how nice it was in the 80s, and it still kind of is sometimes, that you could just ride on a bike going home and you felt safe. Of course, that's played in a small town. You're going to feel a little bit more safe from that. Unlike these days, you're probably going to get hit by a car or something.
Unfortunately, our towns are way too big to be doing some stuff like that, at least that young, without any adult supervision. I mean, I cannot imagine that happening now. I mean, if you really trust your child, that's awesome. I'd love to see that, but this world is a very big and scary place. So being able to see a lot of freedom happen in the 80s that not a lot of us kind of got to have. I remember going down the street and my mom would be like, Savannah, where are you going? What are you doing? And freaking out because she just couldn't see me. But like you said, in the 80s, you were a kid, and I don't know if this is specifically towards the 80s or 90s, but I think a lot of parents were like, just be home when the streetlights come on. I
Yeah.
remember hearing that a lot, with
Yes.
like kind of growing up, but I never got to really experience that because I was already inside the house by the time the sun was already going down.
It is, and I mean, I think we can still experience that in some areas. It's in a major city, it's very hard. Yeah, as a child, we definitely could just be home at a late night hour. Mom and dad felt okay. They felt that you were going to be safe and getting home. And so jumping back in the show, obviously Will was taken into what we call the Upside Down.
Absolutely.
So that starts the show. That definitely grabs your attention and wonders what's next. And that was the cool thing about it. And the one thing about the 80s is they, talking to some people about what was it called and how it was brought back into the show. And it's never old way of looking at it. I guess what we call cliffhangers.
Yeah.
And watching the show, and you couldn't predict what was going to happen next. That's exactly what the shows in the 80s and most of the 90s turned out to be. I guess until sometimes we decided to kind of leak out some things and give you an idea of what's going to happen next. So maybe you can predict what's going to happen in the show or movie. And so what was your favorite part of season 1? I got to ask you about that. What was your favorite part?
Personally, I think my favorite part of season 1 was when I can't remember specifically because it's been so many years, but I think you're gonna understand the scene that I'm talking about. And if you play Stranger Things pinball, there's a part of the game where you hit multi-ball, and it's what's it called?
In the pinball
Telekinesis
scene,
multi-ball.
Yeah.
It's called Telekinesis multi-ball, and it shows you the scene of 11 flipping the van, and them watching it, and they're blown away, and then they just fly off. And then in the multi-ball, all the balls come out and you hit them. But Stranger Things, that first scene, I feel like that is one of the first scenes that really took us by surprise. Imagine being a kid, you're trying to escape with your friends out of a circumstance which you should have never been in the first place, but you're trying to escape and you're trusting these people and you're with someone that has magical powers that who knows where they came from, and you see a bus, a van, something that goes right over your head, and you just continue on the fight and continue on doing what you need to do. And personally, being a kid and seeing that, I thought that was so cool. I wish I was 11 to have been in that moment and flip a van and have people be like, whoa, that is so sick, because it was so awesome. And I think to a lot of us younger generation at the time when the show came out, we just thought that was really, 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 really cool.
Yeah.
It kind of reminded me a bit of in the Mr. Incredible, or in The Incredibles, Mr. Incredible goes and lifts a car, and there's a little boy who just looks at him and he's just staring at him, and his gun pops on his face, and he's just like, whoa, because you see a strong person do something like that, or if you see any sort of strength that really surprises you, or anything that really just takes you by surprise, you just sit there and you're just, wow, I cannot believe that happened. But in that moment, they were fighting, so they had to keep going. They had to keep running away and doing what they could to protect their girl, Elle, and I love that for them.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, as a kid, like we said, we didn't grow up with any cell phones and technology compared to now. So even as a young kid yourself, you had some of it growing up, not as much. But when you're out there and you're using an imagination, you imagine yourself using almost like from Star Wars, the Force, and now in Stranger Things, 11 had a something put in her, obviously, and
a magical power, force, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, and I mean, but still, as a kid, you had kind of like out there going, whoosh, and then as you see 11 use it, you know that she didn't have it as an imagination thing, but it was really cool that she had some cool powers. And
Absolutely.
It's funny because if you watch these kids play D&D, and there's magical powers that they're talking about playing on this board game, and then they meet somebody that has it, they're just mind blown.
Absolutely, and I think that was really cool because it's kind of, for me personally, watching it kind of reminded you of when you, I guess, get to meet your legend, or if you get to see something happen in real life that you only get to see behind a screen, or only get to hear things about. It's really only seeing to believing, and that really just takes you by storm. And I think that was really cool for these younger kids to have experienced that. And me being a younger kid and being able to watch that, it makes me think, oh, how big is the world actually? Maybe this could happen to me. Maybe blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Because you're a kid, you have a wild imagination, so you just never know where it's gonna go.
Definitely, and season one, the scene that really stuck out to me, that I liked the most was whenever they decided to go and try to trap the monster at the house, and Steve gets in there
with Steve,
and that was hilarious.
Yeah.
So
Steve, Jonathan, and Nancy when they're all at the house.
Yes.
And
I just think it's hilarious because they're trying to keep this a secret. There's a lot going on. You got like I said, Joyce trying to look for Will. And then you have Hopper investigating a lot of different things in the show. So then you sit there and Nancy and Jonathan were planning to trap the monster with a bear trap and I think some gasoline. And then Steve comes knocking on the door. And it's just, you feel like it's a perfect storm to mess up, and then it makes the story great. And that was one thing that I would definitely say about this show, is that it continued to bring some of the funniest small surprises. And you would think that, okay, this is what's going to happen. They have a plan.
Absolutely.
And things changed. And they were just thinking, oh my God. But the biggest key I will say is that I think the show is phenomenal about, and I hope these kids understand, is that listen to your mom and dad. And do not sit there and disobey them.
Well, to be very fair, some of the parents didn't do anything the entirety of the show until the very last season.
Right.
No hate, no shame on Miss Karen Wheeler. We love you forever and always for fighting a Demogorgon, but the dad didn't do nothing. Ted Wheeler didn't do nothing that entire show.
Yeah, but as these kids decided to disobey their parents, I mean, that's something definitely in the 80s we just did not do.
Yeah. Well, I think because of that they were able to take that storyline and take it to a point that nobody's ever seen before, and I think that's why they were able to get all these adults and all these children and everyone in between to sit down and watch the show. And even though it was a big broad spectrum of so many things and so many magical aspects coming through, you were able to find similarities in a character or a certain scene or the way that they were talking, what they were doing. And I think that's why a lot of people were able to sit down and enjoy the show, and for it to become as big as it was, because you have to remember this show from 2016 to now, in this day, as of right now, it is January 11th 2026. It's been 10 years since the first season came out.
Definitely.
There's been so many things to happen in the world. There's been so many events, and people socially, we just interact a different way now.
Definitely.
I mean,
so now let's talk about season 2.
We're gonna talk about season 2. Okay, we're gonna go ahead. Let's do it.
Because we know at the end of season 1 that they were fighting a Demogorgon. Police were there. They were at an elementary school, and police get all the police are gone. The Demogorgon killed them. So the kids are left alone. And then you had, I believe it was Lucas with a slingshot, and he pulled back and shot the Demogorgon and thought he had kind of killed it. It ended up being 11, killing the Demogorgon. Do you remember that?
I think so. I think I remember what you're talking about.
And then 11 is gone, I believe, right?
Yes, I believe the second season is when... I can't remember fully and correctly because it's been a while since I've rewatched the entirety of it. But it's either at the end of season 1 or season 2, because they have the dance, they have the fight. No, I think that's when she comes, she has the hair, all that jazz.
Well, she's under hiding in season 2 a lot.
She is under hiding because the government is looking for her.
Yes.
Because, she was a product of the government. So, of course, the government's going to want their property back, regardless of it being an actual human being that breathes.
Yeah.
But I just think that the storyline going into it, because you growing up, and even me growing up, you tell me a whole lot about conspiracy theories, government government things that are happening, some projects that are happening underneath our noses that, are going on at the time that you have no idea are happening about until 10 years later, and they pop up in the news and come to find out that whole town or something, blah, 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 whatever was being, experimented on.
Definitely, it was really neat to see in that show that they decided to kind of show something of the government, to say, okay, for the longest we always had these little things even in the 80s and 90s, we sit back and go, oh yeah, the government's listening to our phone calls. Sure enough, you see that in Stranger Things. They're tapping in and listening, and they're wiring the house because Hopper starts to know a lot about what's going on. And then, of course, they're looking for 11.
Looking for 11 the entirety of the show, practically.
Right, and it's just funny because we've seen some shows and movies before that, the government is like, who are you talking to and what have you been doing? And I think it's really neat that they did imply this in the show. They went like undercover, acting like they were some appliance service technicians or something like that, and they end up going in the house and rigging the house for cameras and microphones, and it was like Hopper knew about it.
Also, with the whole situation with everything happening in the 80s and in Russia, there was very high tensions going on between the U.S. and Russia at the time. So them bringing that into the show, I think, was also a very interesting thing to do, but it was very knowledgeable and very educating because not a lot of people really actually paid attention enough to know about that or really understood that, some of this stuff was real, minus the monsters and, the superheroes and superpowers and whatever you want to call it. Some of that stuff was accurate, whether you want to believe it or not. There's some factual truth out there to some things, to the government testing, way, way, way early on in the early ages, to them doing it now, to things finding out, like CIA files and all this and all that and all those jazz. So I just like how much they've really brought in everything from socially what's going on into the world into the shows, because a lot of you already lived through it. You already had to read the news growing up and see all of this tension happening between the United States and whoever else, but for all of us, we never got to experience that. We never really heard about it. We never really knew about it. So kind of reliving it was very educational in the pretense of knowing, okay, some of this did happen. There was tension between here and here, minus the Demogorgons and the monsters and, kidnapping Hopper so that he could have a fight club with the Demogorgons. But, I just think it was, even though it was a fictional show, there was a lot of educational stuff brought into it, and I love the ideals of that because a lot of kids were the ones watching this, and a lot of kids were the ones that showed their parents. So I think them having that little aspect and the parents being able to sit down and be like, oh, I remember that. I remember being around your age and hearing about stuff like this and all that. I really think it helped.
Definitely.
With showing other people and broadening the aspect of the show for itself.
Yeah, and I mean, you're talking about the references, and I know that you noted some things, and we're going to just go ahead and go on it. Like I said, in the end of season 2, they're saving the world. He asked for Susie Q as this character.
That was season 3.
It's season 3 then.
Season 3 is the mall. So season 3 is the big mall season. That's when Billy dies. That's when the spider monster, I guess, whatever you want to call it, comes and attacks the building.
I thought that's whenever Dustin was singing Neverending Story.
That's season 3.
Oh, season 3. Okay.
Yeah, so because that's when Hopper is already in Russia, I believe.
Okay, so I'm wrong. Season 4. Okay, I'm wrong. It's not season 2, season 3. But that's what caught my attention was the Neverending Story.
Yes.
Okay, so we're gonna go back a little bit to season 2. And from what I remember about season 2, favorite scene from season 2? That's a tough one. I mean, because I remember Mike was upset.
Yeah.
And about Elle being gone for a long time. That's whenever Max came out. And you had Billy coming out in
that
season 2.
Was in season 2, I believe.
It is. It is.
Yeah,
so
you're right.
Yeah, Billy,
you're right.
And Max, that's whenever they were.
That's when they were introduced.
And then.
Was that the season with Dart?
Yes, you had Dart in the season. You had
Poor Dusty Bun is just trying to save his animals. Just trying to
right.
be a PETA king.
And obviously now, if we had a dart coming in front of our house, or if we trap it, we're going to turn this thing into somewhere, and it's not going to stay with us because
Yeah.
that was one creature that is not a dog or a cat, and end up being bad.
Well, that's what happens when you give children animals that are not fully formed or that don't look correctly, because a lot of us will look at the animal and be like, oh my goodness, you are the cutest thing I've ever seen. And a normal person might look at it and be like, are you okay?
Yes.
Is there something that I can actually help you with?
Yes.
And we're just like, oh, sweet baby, let me feed you candy for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, you can win some and you can lose some. So it's kind of iffy and choosy.
The biggest reference that you and I love about Stranger Things and season 2 is the arcades.
Yes. Yes. If you couldn't tell already from my background itself, I learned... I will say that show really encouraged me to learn a lot about arcade games. I saw it, I fell in love with it, and I said, Dad, let's go to an arcade. And then that one sentence started a whole nother spiral and a whole nother hobby.
Yeah.
But it was really cool to have entered the arcade world at the time that I did, because that's when I believe it started becoming more popular.
Oh, yeah.
And so there was a whole bunch of people coming in. You were meeting a lot of people that you never really would have known before, unless if it was a place like this. And you're just making friends, you're getting to know people, you're getting to talk to people, you're building communication skills, you're building a lot of social skills that you don't really think about it because you're so young and you just want to play games and you just want to have fun.
Yeah.
But
and that was the cool thing about it. I think I mentioned to you, I said, I think that's really neat about Stranger Things is whether the retro arcade scene that's very popular right now. Obviously pinball that we play. Look, there's one sitting right between us.
We've got 2 of them behind me, and I got a centipede behind me as well, if you cannot see. But
yeah, and I think it's really neat. I mean, who would have thought that the show would have inspired the big move of retro arcades to come back out, become very successful, become very fun to go back and do. If you've never been to a retro arcade, pretty much most of them in our area that we live in, you pay a small fee to go in and you get to play as much as you want of these old games that have been around since the 80s. Your classics of Centipede, Pac-Man, there you go, and a lot of others. And of course, a big one was pinball. As a kid growing up, I mean, we would just always want to play pinball machines, and we learned a lot about it. But anyways, going back to the show, we don't want to go off.
That's another topic for another day, maybe another episode. Y'all let us know down below.
But it was fun. It was fun because these arcades would play some 80s music, and then you had your 80s vibe, and it brought back good old memories and fun. And then I think as these kids were watching the show, including yourself, that you wanted to be part of that. And it was just like, wow, as a parent, you were able to sit there and have your child enjoy something you grew up, because these days kids don't really like what parents do or what they did. Let's be real. Let's go ahead and say the facts. So
absolutely. Well, I wanted to go ahead and veer off and show you some cultural impacts from Stranger Things. So with this, I'm going to show you a few TikToks and a few pictures from the influence that social media and Stranger Things has put inside of social media. But this first one, I'm going to go ahead and show you some Stranger Things photos. These are kind of actually really funny. We're going to kind of cut off here for a second, but I want to go ahead and show you these. The first one we have here, for those who cannot see down below, I'm going to make them big for y'all because it's a little funky, but over here on this left corner, we have a dripped out Vecna. For the people that don't know, the last season of Stranger Things was very CGI incorporated, sorry. So a lot of people, or a lot of the CGI was done on a computer, so a lot of the actual costumes itself wasn't an actual physical costume. So what I'm showing my dad right now is, or the man that plays Vecna in Stranger Things, he is in his suit, I guess you want to call it, and he has glasses on. And I think that shows you the well enough vibe of who he is as an actor. he definitely had a fun time playing Stranger Things and being the bad guy in Stranger Things.
Mhm.
And I want to see more of him. I definitely think that we all want to see more of him
Mhm.
somewhere.
Yeah.
Make him another bad guy anywhere,
Mhm.
please, guys. So this next one on the bottom right corner is a meme from, I believe, season 1. This is from season 1 after Steve got beaten up by, oh no, this is when season 2, when he got beaten up after Billy. When Billy came beat him up and the kids had to go and save Steve.
Right.
Steve comes to finally after being knocked out, and Max is driving his car.
Okay.
And he looks over and he sees a beautiful face and he says, Nancy. And it's Mike staring at him like, are you good, man? Do we need to take you to the hospital? And this big, beautiful one right here on the very top is, I'm sorry, I do not know your name, but I remember when the first season of Stranger Things came out, a lot of people were absolutely loving Eleven and loving her costumes that she had, and especially her tendencies and her hobby of Egos, I guess you want to call it. So a lot of people that first year in 2016 that Stranger Things came out decided to dress up as Eleven and other characters from Stranger Things. So I just wanted to go ahead and show you that because I thought it was very, very, very funny. You looking for these online, you type Stranger Things memes, I promise you, you'll be entertained for a good while.
All right. And then I see that you put down cultural impacts.
Yes.
Again, you just said it, but I just noticing that what you decided to kind of note and say, I want to point out Halloween costumes. Tell me, I'm not a Halloween person.
You
and you tell me what you see, what you saw. I mean, as a maybe a newly out of not trick-or-treating so much, but
when I was a kid, I would say I feel like I definitely saw a good amount of Stranger Things costumes. I definitely saw some Dustins out there. I saw a few 11s growing up. I don't think I ever saw any Steves. Maybe a few Nancys here and there. I never saw Lucas and Max, which that would have been such a cute couple's costume. Yeah. So if you guys ever do that, please tag me because I would love to see that. It's so cute.
I remember one year I wanted to be it's not Eddie.
Murray?
Murray, there you go.
I would love to. I want to say personally, I love Murray, the guy that plays him. I do not remember your name. I am very sorry, but him as an actor, he's very funny. And you're not on social media, Dad, but I am chronically online. So I needed to share with you that for I guess the whole week leading up to the final episode of Stranger Things, he kept posting all of these TikToks of him just making fun of like Stranger Things, of him like, you know, being funny, and you know what TikTok is, basically entertaining the world. And I was like, this is like such the fantastic person to play Murray. I could not think of a better person to play him.
And I think like even the last few shows, it definitely was the last one. Whenever he just kept saying it, kept calling the teacher Snookums, and then now the word Snookums is out there. People were saying it all over, and I think it's hilarious. I mean, because that was an old name that years ago, you know, when you called your partner, you know, a boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, but I think more husband and wife. You know, you would hear them call each other Snookums, and I just think it's hilarious that they said that, and it just grabbed the attention now, and everybody I think it's starting to call each other that. That's a couple of what word and hey Snookums, or just it's great. You know, some things can never get old.
Absolutely. Well, I wanted to go ahead and show you this small little TikTok as well, since we're talking about the cultural impact.
All right.
A lot of people around TikTok, social media, anywhere and everywhere, a lot of people have taken this past the whole season and the past few seasons and compiled it into what we call compilations. Basically, these videos that represent what the seasons have been about, what the show has been about, and kind of forming videos in your own way to show what you want them to mean.
Okay.
And I want to show them to you. So here is going to be that first one. You ready?
I'm ready.
Let's do it.
All right.
But I know you're getting older, growing, changing. And I guess, if I'm being really honest, That's what scares me. I don't want things to change.
You're all grown up. I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud.
You begin to learn more about yourself. You change. You grow. I'm a better person now. I'm a better person because of them. Because of my friends.
So you know what? Keep on growing up, kid. Don't let me stop you.
All right.
All right. So, what did you think about that? Was that lovely?
That's great.
I
Whoever
thought it was
created that definitely put some good little thought into it, and it didn't seem like it took too much to make, but whoever thought of it did great with it. So
Absolutely. I definitely think that the person that sat down and made that definitely knew that this last season was coming to an end, and it was
Mhm.
going to represent, closing a chapter to a book that's been open for a very, very, very long time.
Mhm.
And to a lot of us, we've grown up with the show. So it is like closing a chapter to a book that you never wanted to end, a
Yeah.
story that you really, really never want to end.
Right, and just like I told you, there's been a lot of shows out there that actually never really had a good ending.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad that the Duffer Brothers and Netflix and anybody else all in between are with it said, hey, let's go ahead and let's bring an ending to it. Nobody wants to see a good show end.
Absolutely.
I grew up with watching Saved by the Bell was a great long-term venture show. Full House is another one. And you didn't want to see those end. And I don't think they had a really good ending if either one of the two shows. So if this one has one, great.
I'm gonna be honest, I don't remember, because I know that they made a sequel, I guess, if you want to call it, to Fuller House, and it's on Netflix.
Mhm.
I'm not sure if that one has an ending or a clear, obvious ending that, people can really take away from and learn something from.
Mhm.
But I'll be honest, a lot of people, the ending of this last season has made people very confused, because a lot of us want to feel like Joyce from season 3 and freak out because why aren't the magnets sticking to the fridge? There's a lot of plot holes, there's a lot of things, there's a lot of ideas that never really got fulfilled or tied up correctly. But I think what they really, really, really wanted is that they wanted for their characters to have a clear ending. They wanted their characters to have that moving on storyline instead of them, being stuck in being a kid forever, stuck in those feelings of, am I going to see her again?
Mhm.
Or is my family going to be okay? Is life going to be okay? Because unfortunately, being a grown-up, you don't really have a lot of time to think about it. You kind of just got to keep moving and keep moving and keep moving, kind of like a shark. And never stop moving, because you never know what's going to happen. If you pause and stop moving for 2 seconds, you might miss, however much time.
Mhm.
But I think that was really important to the Duffers, was them really, like what you said, writing that storyline, having that ending set in stone done for them.
Mhm.
But I genuinely think that the people that enjoyed that last season
Mhm.
were the fans that grew up with the show, that understood that some things have to come to an end sometimes. And even though it may not be the exact way that we want it,
Mhm.
it's an ending that we can accept, that we can take home,
Yeah.
and we can leave it there.
Yeah, just like I said, Halloween, the last one that came out with Jamie Lee Curtis, and if you've seen it, that she decided to end it. They got his body and they threw it into a shredder and officially ended it.
Yeah, I mean, there's no really coming back from that unless we
no.
put some voodoo hex on that, which, hey,
Right.
if you want to start writing some storylines for Halloween number, 9, 10, 11, 12, call me up.
Right.
Call me up, Universal. I've got some ideas for you.
And I thought it was phenomenal that they said, hey, we're going to bring it into this. And looking back at it, it was a great idea, to end it. And there's, like I said, there's some shows out there that were good and never ended. whether it's contract disputes or whatever it be.
Grey's Anatomy and Law and Order are still running to this day, I believe.
Yeah.
I know about Law and Order, don't know about Grey's Anatomy, but I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure that those two, and The Simpsons. The Simpsons is the longest running television show.
Yeah.
So if we really want to talk about not ending a story, we could have a very long episode.
Yeah. We won't go there, but at least with the real cast show, I mean, I think Friends lasted a very long time.
Friends did.
I mean, you had even some other ones like Family Matters, and that was out on TV for a long time.
Boy Meets World.
Yes, that was a pretty good. Fresh Prince of Bel-Air was there for a long time. And I don't know if they really had a strong ending. And sometimes the show goes on for so long where maybe it should have ended sooner.
Yeah,
And-
no, I get that.
And I like the fact that Stranger Things said, "Hey, let's write this out. Let's get it done."
Also, with the cast getting older,
Mm-hmm.
because I'd like to remind everyone that the
Mhm.
first season came out in 2016. That was almost 10 years ago. I was in
Mhm.
7th grade, and those kids are almost the exact same age that I was when that first season came out. So it's been 10 years for those cast and crew too. So those 10-year-old kids, those 11-year-old kids are now 20, 21, 22. So, they're pushing their age limits. They want to grow. They want to
Mhm.
choose other opportunities. They want to, they might want to do something more personally, or they might want to grow their career more. So, I think it's also being able to give the people the time that they need
Mm-hmm.
to make the character their own, embrace it, show the person, show that type of character, show who they are, how they made them to be,
Definitely.
and be able to take a bow and say, I'm all done.
Yeah, I mean, there's some shows out there that people do for so long, and they loved it. I mean, there's a reason why they did it, but sometimes it just never lets them enjoy life.
Yeah,
And-
I will say I agree with that.
Mm-hmm. And so I think that's a great idea. Like I said, that they put an ending to it, allow these actors and actresses to live a life and all that stuff. This is like I told you. I think a lot of people right now are upset because they're saying, "Oh, it was a terrible ending." I just honestly think they don't want to see it end.
And that's where I can agree with that too, because you know what, me personally, I didn't want to see it end either. But now that I've had some time to really think about it and actually genuinely take in the writing and everything that's happened, I can say that I'm okay with the ending, and I'm okay with everyone leaving it where it was at.
Big time. So, anyways, the one thing I learned about watching it with you, I would just say that what you kids really still that think kind of like how we did or do, or what attracted us, you guys still are attracted to, like.
Oh yeah, I think that's also the point of seeing your parents have liked it, so now you're like, oh, let me try it. Maybe because my dad or my mom or my uncle or my brother or my sister or my great best friend, maybe because of somebody encouraging them to try something that they've done before a long time ago, but is new to them. I appreciate the nostalgia it brings, because I know when you've seen me play pinball, it brings a sort of nostalgia for you when you were a kid.
Definitely.
So
I was nowhere near as skilled at a young age or the young part of it, and like I said, I'm glad that it kind of brought back the arcades, and arcades before Stranger Things was different. So now it's all retro and it's more fun. I'm glad you got to see it.
Yeah. But all right, everyone, I think that is everything that we have for this second episode about Stranger Things. It was so fun to be able to sit down and talk to you guys about one of my favorite shows, and a show that I was able to share with my dad.
Yes.
It has been an incredible past 10 years that the show has given us, and I know that when I have family in the future, I'm definitely going to show them Stranger Things and make them sit down and watch all of it, because it was such a fantastic show, and the writing, the cinematography, everything in it, to the casting,
Yep.
There's just some things in that show that I don't think any other show will be able to recreate.
Yeah. And it's a show that you and I can watch over and over together again.
Absolutely. It's definitely a show that I can binge watch, and I will be binge watching it as soon as I possibly can. Probably after this, but I guess we'll see. But I wanted to go ahead and give everyone a sneak little peek of what our next episode is going to be about. The title of our next episode is going to be Back Then, You Just Dealt With It. Adulting in Two Eras. So we're going to be going around and talking about growing up, being an adult, having a job, you know, being responsible, doing the things that it means to be an adult from the 80s to now in this beautiful day and age to the 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
Or my dad, for this instance, him being an adult in the 2000s and me being an adult in the early 2020s. So,
Oh, yes.
if you want to see that next episode, or if you just really enjoyed this episode, go ahead and leave us a like and a comment down below. But we
Yes.
had so much fun doing this for you guys. If there's any other comments or concerns or any topics that you want to share with us that you would like us to see in another episode, then go ahead and let us know. But other than that, I think that's all we got.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.